Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tucker, and in today's video, we're going to talk about the Chicago Bulls. This is a team that I had relatively high hopes for coming into this season. I had them ranked as, a team that could potentially be in a play-in situation in the Eastern Conference for the playoffs. I had them at right around the 10th seed, and I thought that there was going to be some promising signs for this group this year because of the change of the head coaching position, going from Jim Boylen to Billy Donovan. I thought it was going to be a significant difference maker because there's some young talent on this team. But at this point in the season, granted, it's only 3 games, this has been arguably the biggest disaster in the league. I mean, maybe there's an argument with a couple of other teams, but the Bulls are 0-3 and they have not looked good at all. And in this video, we're going to kind of talk about where that leaves them, what they could potentially be doing here moving forward with this roster, whether it be this season or moving forward. And we're just going to kind of evaluate the whole situation here in Chicago. So once again, we're over here on TradeNBA.com. That's just kind of the best way we can look, at the roster as a whole and talk about where we can go from here. So the issue for Chicago is that there is some talent on this roster. I mean, Zach LaVine's one of the better scorers in the league last year from a statistical standpoint. I still really like Lauri Markkanen as a player. Coby White is still just 20. Wendell Carter Jr. is still just 21 years old. Patrick Williams has shown some promise as a rookie. But the issue is it's pretty clear at this point that for whatever reason, this combination of players just doesn't work, whether it's because they're all still so young. Again, Markkanen, White, Carter Jr. are all still 23 and under, whether it's just there's not enough defense amongst their core 4 or 5 players, whether it's a fit issue with Patrick Williams trying to play on the wing with Markkanen and Carter at the same time. Whatever the case may be, this is a roster that just doesn't fit well together. And the bigger issue really is that there doesn't appear to be a ton of options or a ton of solutions for this group in terms of making a significant difference now or down the road for a couple of reasons. One, LaVine only has 2 years left on his deal. Yes, he's still just 25 years old, but he's going to need a new contract in the summer of 2022, so you're going to have to pay a pretty significant amount for him there, assuming he's still in Chicago. And then Lauri Markkanen is a really interesting situation as well because he started to come on a little bit here, has had a relatively good start to the season. And if he's really good for them this year, he's going to need a new contract at the end of the year as well. He's a restricted free agent. Lots of money is going to be available in the summer of 2021. He could get a significant offer. And then all of a sudden you're looking at, you got Markkanen on a new contract. You re-sign LaVine. Other guys like Carter Jr. and Coby White and Patrick Williams will eventually need new deals. And you're looking at a very, very expensive roster that to this point has not really proven anything. And that's a big issue because yes, there are some excuses here, right? It's the beginning of the season. It's a new coach. It's, a lot to try and get together at the beginning of the year because of the very quick turnaround. And again, the youth can continue to be pointed to here. But the point is, these guys are just not good right now. And at some point, some decisions have to be made about who you do and do not want to continue to keep on this roster. So in terms of solutions, there's not a ton of value here outside of that core 5 of players, the young guys, LaVine, Williams, Markkanen, White, and Carter Jr. You can potentially shop around someone like Thaddeus Young or someone like Otto Porter Jr. to other teams. I think it's more likely that someone like Porter Jr. could potentially be available to a team that is looking for a wing. He's not a great player, obviously, at this point, but with that bigger expiring contract, if a team that is, looking to be good this year but also be players in the summer 2021 wants to bring in someone like Otto Porter Jr., then maybe that would be an option. Off the top of my head, maybe someone like Miami is an option here. They package together a few of their expirings and send a second-round pick or something to Chicago in exchange for Otto Porter. This is assuming the Bulls season continues to go downhill. Maybe Brooklyn is an option here, and you go Taurean Prince and a pick or something in exchange for Porter Jr. Something like that could get them some kind of value, maybe a couple of second-round picks. And then Thaddeus Young, again, as I mentioned, is another player that could possibly provide value to other teams. But, Young was a player that at the time they signed him to the deal, I didn't agree with it. He was on one of the most overpaid players list that I made in that offseason. And ultimately, he has not been a difference maker for this Bulls team, especially now that you got Patrick Williams. That is a very crowded front court. And that leaves us with a couple options here. One, you can start trying to sell off some players that you don't think are part of the long-term future or are just going to become too expensive. And the 2 leading candidates here for that on this Bulls roster would be Zach LaVine or Lauri Markkanen, potentially taking a look at trading one of those 2 guys before you either have to pay Markkanen, potentially overpay him this offseason, and then the same thing here with LaVine. So if you look at different teams around the league that are maybe looking to add some younger players that are willing to pay someone like Markkanen this offseason, you potentially ship them there, and that could be an option. Now, the other way you could go is if you really want to go all in on this group, and you're like, you know what, we've been tanking for 4 years, and I want the team to be good. I want to just throw some assets at somebody, let's go get a player. I still think that this is a team that has the assets to potentially go out and get someone like James Harden, if that's a place that James Harden wants to play. You could pretty easily do Harden to Chicago in exchange for LaVine. They've got some contracts here that make this pretty easy as well for Houston to get some expiring contracts out of. Right there, just with that package, obviously you're there salary-wise. You can throw some younger players in there, some picks, and make something work here to where Houston ends up with salary cap relief. They end up with some nice young players, whether that be LaVine and Markkanen, LaVine and White, LaVine and Carter, whatever, some future picks. And then the Bulls are moving forward with a roster that includes, James Harden, PJ Tucker, and then whatever young guys they keep. And worst case, like James Harden has shown this, just the other night where he put up huge numbers. If you put up some semi-competent players around James Harden in the Eastern Conference, you're going to be a playoff team. And if that's the only goal here for Chicago is just to finally do something, then maybe that is a move that they take a look at here, potentially bringing in someone like Harden. But at the end of the day, it's a big issue for Chicago, is where this roster is going. And again, it's only 3 games into the year, and things can change pretty quickly in the NBA. And 3 weeks from now, we could be talking about them as a 500 team. But whether it's a lack of defense in the starting group between White and LaVine, neither of them being good defenders, Patrick Williams, and then ideally Wendell Carter being really the only positives defensively in that starting lineup, whether it be a fit issue of trying to play Williams at the 3, which in my opinion is not a good idea, but they're kind of forced to do at this point, whether it be just the uncertain future contract-wise with Markkanen and LaVine, I don't think it's unfair to say that this team is a bit of a disaster. Now, at the end of the day, they need to add a game-changing, a franchise-changing, high-level player to this roster, which is why we talked about the Harden trade. But maybe that comes into play with their 2021 first-round pick. Maybe they are really bad this year again, and they're in play for getting a top pick, and they end up with someone like Cade Cunningham in the 2021 draft, and that changes things drastically for this group. But outside of that, I don't see this as a playoff team moving forward outside of a star trade or some really good lottery luck. And that's really what it comes down to, is they have some good players, right? LaVine, whatever, the core 5 we continue to talk about, assuming Patrick Williams pans out. And some players that, I still do really like, most specifically White, Markkanen, Carter, and then a little bit less LaVine in terms of like the long-term outlook. But clearly something isn't working here. And without some kind of game-changing player added to this mix, I find it hard to believe that there's that much of a future here in Chicago. Now, that's not to say that they don't have options like we talked about. There could be a star trade here. There could be future picks traded away. But at the end of the day, this is not a good roster. Like, the upside seems like it's there, but it's relatively limited if these guys don't fit together. And I mean, like I said, like there's a scenario in which a couple years from now, we're looking at a team that is close to the luxury tax, paying Zach LaVine and Lauri Markkanen a ton of money, and still not really being, a legit 100% playoff team, which is a huge, huge problem. So Chicago Bulls are in trouble. I'm interested to see down in the comment section below what you guys think they should potentially be doing here, where they should be going with this roster, what they should or shouldn't be adding. Should it be a full tank? Should it be something where they try and add some complementary pieces? They use some of these expirings or some of these veteran players to add some complementary options that are actually going to be useful to this team. Is it something where they end up trading someone like Markkanen or Carter Jr. to try and make this starting lineup fit? I don't know. I'm interested to see what you guys have to say down in the comment section below, because it's going to be a chore, definitely, to try and figure out what to do with the Chicago Bulls roster. But that is going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you all very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. I upload twice a day, every day, so it's a great place for consistent NBA content. If this is the first time you're seeing one of my videos, then go ahead and subscribe. It's a great place, like I said, to be for that consistent content. You can also leave a like rating on the video as well. If you enjoyed it, it helps me out a ton, lets me know that you're enjoying the content, and helps it get out to more people on YouTube. With all those things said, like I said, hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.